Video, we are going to discuss stomach and small intestine. So first let us start with stomach. In that also our topic is stomach bed. So stomach bed is nothing but it's like a bed. On the bed you will rest, right? So same like the stomach will rest on its bed, and that is the stomach bed. So it is nothing but the posterior relations of the stomach. So what are the structures? You have left crux of diaphragm, you have pancreas, of course not tail of pancreas except tail, and you have splenic artery, left suprarenal gland. Of course, if you have left kidney, then upon left kidney you have left suprarenal gland, and also you will be having transverse mesocolon and spleen. So these are all providing a bed like structure for the stomach. On that the stomach lies. Okay, so this is the stomach bed structures. Now let us see what is the blood supply and lymphatic drainage of the stomach. So the blood supply for the stomach is mainly by a left gastric artery and right gastric artery, okay, on two sides of the stomach, and also the short gastric arteries will be here, and of course the left gastroepiploic artery and the right gastroepiploic artery, right? So actually what I mean to say is, if you remember about the lesser omentum, greater omentum, the contents of lesser omentum are left gastric artery and right gastric artery, and if you remember the contents of greater omentum, they have left gastroepiploic artery, right gastroepiploic artery, right? So like that you can remember lesser omentum, greater omentum according to the name, and also you have short gastric artery along with it. So now let us see the branches, like from which branch they are coming. So you can see your stomach, clearly I wrote all the arteries which are giving it supply. So first, the most important and the principal artery to the stomach is the left gastric artery. So this one is the left gastric artery, this one is the right gastric artery. Okay, so the left gastric artery is a principal artery to the stomach, and it is coming from the celiac trunk. Okay, so celiac trunk, left gastric artery, it is coming from celiac trunk. Next, coming to the right gastric artery, this is coming from the common hepatic artery. So it is a branch of common hepatic artery. Next, you have the left gastroepiploic artery, which is a branch of splenic artery, and also you have a right gastroepiploic artery, which is a branch of gastroduodenal artery. And the next one is short gastric artery, which is coming from splenic artery. So you can see here the different arteries. So the common among this is splenic artery. Splenic artery is giving rise to both the left gastroepiploic artery and also the short gastric artery, whereas celiac trunk is giving rise to left gastric artery, common hepatic artery giving rise to right gastric artery, gastroduodenal artery giving rise to right gastroepiploic artery. So these are the different arteries of stomach. Now coming to the venous drainage. So what are the veins of stomach? Actually the venous drainage names, the veins name are also same like artery, but they drain into some other veins. What are those? Let us see. So veins, you can see they accompany arteries. The left gastric vein, the right gastric vein, they are directly going and draining into the portal vein. So they are direct tributaries of portal vein, whereas the right gastroepiploic vein is draining into the superior mesenteric vein, and the left gastroepiploic vein, short gastric vein, this both are together draining into splenic vein. So here you have two combinations, left gastric vein with right gastric vein, both are gastric veins, they go into portal vein directly. Left gastroepiploic vein with short gastric vein, both are draining into splenic vein, whereas right gastroepiploic vein drain into superior mesenteric vein. Okay, so all these veins of stomach are draining into portal vein either directly or indirectly. So finally the destination is portal vein. Okay, so now coming to the lymphatic drainage of stomach. So what is the lymph of the stomach? So you can see first we need to divide the stomach into right side and left side. Okay, so right side you have, it is divided into right upper 2/3 and lower 1/3. Okay, and on the left side also it is divided into left upper 1/3 and left lower 2/3. Okay, so this right upper 1/3, first one, this one, it is going and draining into the left gastric nodes. So these are the lymph nodes. And the second one, that is on the left lower 2/3, it is supplying draining to the right gastroepiploic nodes and pyloric nodes. Next, coming to the third one, which is in the left upper 1/3, it is going and draining to the pancreatico-splenic nodes. whereas the fourth one, which is the lower lower one third of the right side, it is going and draining into the right gastric nodes and also hepatic nodes. So this is a lymph drainage of stomach. Now if you see, the lymph from 1, 2, 3, 4 segments all finally drain into celiac nodes. So remember, the final destination for venous drainage is portal vein. The final destination for lymphatic drainage is celiac nodes. So this thing is important. Now coming to the nerve supply of stomach. So nerve supply, stomach is of course supplied by both parasympathetic and sympathetic, right? So sympathetic is mainly by greater splanchnic nerve, that is a root value T5 to T9, okay? And they also carry some pain fibers, and their main function is vasomotor function. They inhibit, whenever you are in tension, you don't want to digest your food, right? So they inhibit the gastric musculature and except pyloric part, that is they stimulate the pyloric part, but they inhibit the gastric musculature. Next, coming to parasympathetic, they are vagus, of course, they are secretomotor. If you see here, they are vasomotor, here sympathetic, whereas parasympathetic are secretomotor fibers, and they mainly stimulate the gastric musculature. Here they are going to stimulate the gastric musculature and relax the pyloric part or inhibit it. So here they will inhibit the pyloric part in parasympathetic and stimulate the gastric musculature. But here they are stimulating the pylorus and inhibiting the gastric musculature. So both are reverse. So now let us discuss about two vagal trunks. One is the anterior vagal trunk and the other one is posterior vagal trunk. So first we'll start with anterior vagal trunk. So anterior vagal trunk is predominantly derived from left vagus. So it is mainly coming from the left vagus. And this anterior vagal trunk is divided in turn into three branches. First two branches. One is the hepatic branch, one is the gastric branch. And this hepatic branch is in turn divided into ascending branch and descending branch. So this ascending branch supplies the liver, extrahepatic biliary system, whereas the descending branch supplies the pyloric part. Next, coming to gastric branch, it is also called as nerve of latter jet. So the nerve of latter jet mainly supply the stomach. Okay. So gastric, you can see, supplying stomach. Ascending branch, hepatic, so supplying liver, extrahepatic biliary system. Descending supplies pyloric part of stomach, that is the end part of stomach. So it is descending branch. So this is about anterior vagal trunk. Now let us see the posterior vagal trunk. So the posterior vagal trunk is mainly formed by right vagus. So we have seen anterior vagal trunk is formed by left vagus, right? Here you can see clearly anterior vagal trunk formed by left vagus, but the posterior vagal trunk is formed by right vagus. Okay, and now this posterior vagal trunk is divided in turn into three branches. One is the celiac branch, which also gives rise to celiac ganglia, and the other one is the gastric branch, also called as nerve of latter jet, and the other one is nerve of Grassi, which supplies the fundus. It is also called as criminal nerve of Grassi. Okay, so this is a posterior vagal trunk. Now let us see the applied anatomy related to it. That is three applied we have. One is the truncal vagotomy, one is a selective vagotomy, one is a high selective vagotomy. So what is truncal vagotomy? Truncal vagotomy is where you remove the entire trunk. If you remove the entire vagal trunk, it is nothing but you are removing both anterior and posterior vagus, right? Next, coming to selective. In the name itself, there is selective, means you are selecting. You are only selecting the gastric branch. So you are only removing the gastric branch. So it is sparing hepatic and celiac branch. So for both procedures, if you see, the gastric emptying is affected because the nerve supply to pylorus is affected. So as the nerve supply for the pylorus is affected, both the procedures are interfering with the gastric emptying process. So there is another process which is called highly selective. So this is just selective, this is highly selective. As it is highly selective, only the criminal nerve of Grassi is removed. So because of this, the gastric emptying here is not affected, as the nerve to pylorus is not involved in this procedure, or you can say the nerve to pylorus is spared in this procedure. Okay. So highly selective will not disturb the gastric emptying. Now coming to the small intestine. So we have completed the stomach discussion. Now coming to the small intestine discussion. So in the small intestine, the duodenum is divided into four parts. So let us see one by one. The first part of duodenum, if you see, it will measure 5 centimeters. If you see the second part, it is actually a vertical part. So let me draw the duodenum, you'll understand. Right? So for example, if you see till here, it's a first part, it is only 5 centimeter. And next you have a second part, which is a vertical part. It is extending from L1 to L3 vertebra level and measures about 8 to 10 centimeters. Okay. And the next one you have is the third part, this one. The third part is horizontal part. It is measuring about 10 centimeters. And the last one is the fourth part, which is the smallest part. It is just 2.5 centimeter and it will continue as jejunum. Okay, so these are the four parts of duodenum. So let us see the first part of duodenum in detail. So first part of duodenum is nothing but, especially its proximal part will be intraperitoneal. Intraperitoneal means inside the peritoneum. But the remaining all part of the duodenum is retroperitoneal, means it is covered only on one side, anterior side by peritoneum, posterior side it is free. But the proximal part is intraperitoneal. Okay. And it is covered by hepatoduodenal part of lesser omentum. You know, lesser omentum have hepatoduodenal, hepatogastric part. So that hepatoduodenal part of lesser omentum covers this 5 centimeter proximal part. And the distal part is all retroperitoneal. Okay. So there are numerous Brunner's gland, especially in the proximal part. Of course, Brunner's gland are present throughout the duodenum, but numerous Brunner's gland are present in the proximal part of duodenum, and also there are globular cells which are neutralizing the stomach heads here. Okay. Now coming to the common bile duct. The common bile duct is divided into three, mainly by first part of duodenum. So first part of duodenum, actually it is passing in posterior part. The common bile duct, for example, this is proximal part. So if I draw a dotted line, it means that the common bile duct is passing back to the first part of duodenum. Okay. So above the first part of duodenum, this part is called as supraduodenal because it above the duodenum. Supraduodenal part. Behind the first part, it is called retro because it's back, retroduodenal. And below the first part, it is called infraduodenal part of common bile duct. Okay. So, especially behind the first part, that is the retroperitoneal part of retroduodenal part of duodenum, is having three structures. That is the retroduodenal part of common bile duct, the gastroduodenal artery, and the portal vein. So there is one artery and vein, that is gastroduodenal artery and portal vein. So now for example, if there is an ulcer in the posterior part, first part of duodenum, then what artery is it is eroding? It is eroding the gastroduodenal artery. If they ask what vein is eroding, you can say portal vein. Okay. So now coming to the circular folds or valves of cracking. So what are circular folds or valve of crackings? So the circular folds or valve of crackings are present especially throughout the length of small intestine except in first part of duodenum. So if you see here the first part of duodenum, all the small intestine they are present, but in first part they are absent. So what happens now? So on contrast study, there are no circular folds in first part and they are appearing as a duodenal cap. So they are forming a cap-like structure in the first part of duodenum, but throughout the duodenum there are many circular folds. Okay. Now coming to the duodenum second, third and fourth parts. Okay. So the second part of duodenum is 8 to 10 centimeter and it is descending in front of hilum of right kidney. So as we drawn here, on the back side of second part there will be a right kidney like this. So this is a right kidney. Okay. And which is extending from L1 to L3 vertebra. And the major duodenal papillae, what is major duodenal papillae? It's actually a projection in the posterior medial wall of second part of duodenum. Okay. So for example, let us draw duodenum here. So here you will have a major duodenal papilla. Okay. So the major duodenal papilla is projection in posterior medial wall of second part of duodenum. It mainly contains ampulla of water. Okay, you know ampulla of water is nothing but it is a opening of both common bile duct and pancreatic duct. So they both open in the major duodenal papilla. Next, coming to minor duodenal papilla, it will be present upon like this. Okay, so minor duodenal papilla situated 2 centimeter above the major duodenal papilla. It receives the accessory pancreatic duct. So this one will receive accessory pancreatic duct. This one will receive common bile duct and pancreatic duct. Now coming to the third part of duodenum. This one. The third part of duodenum is a horizontal part which is 10 centimeters and it is extending from inferior duodenal flexure to abdominal aorta. So third part of duodenum is horizontal part which is coming from the inferior duodenal flexure to the abdominal aorta here. Okay. So now coming to the anterior relations to third part, here you will be having a superior mesenteric artery, superior mesenteric vein and also a root of mesentery. So like that you will be having superior mesenteric vessels and also root of mesentery. Now if you see the posterior relations, so if you observe these posterior relations, they are similar to root of mesentery relations, like you can see inferior vena cava, aorta, right psoas major muscle, right genitofemoral nerve, right gonadal vessels, right ureter. So all these are posterior relations of our third part of duodenum. So now let us discuss about fourth part of duodenum. So fourth part of duodenum is coming from abdominal aorta to duodenal jejunal flexure. So from abdominal aorta to duodenal jejunal flexure. So it is about 2.5 centimeter. It is the smallest part. So this last part, this part is fourth part. Okay. So it is the smallest part, and here this fourth part is related to muscle called suspensory muscle of duodenum, also called as ligament of Treitz. And this ligament of Treitz is extending from right crus of diaphragm to the duodenojejunal flexure. Okay. So there is also a remnant of superior retention bundle of primitive midgut. Okay, that is our ligament of Treitz. So now coming to the duodenal recesses, or you can say duodenal spaces. So actually you have the around fourth part of duodenum. There's a duodenal recess present, that is called as superior duodenal recess. And also you have an inferior duodenal recess, which is a most common, and it is present in 50% of individuals, you can see. Next, coming to paraduodenal recess, it is containing an inferior mesenteric vein. You can see clearly this one. This is a paraduodenal recess, and this is a most important one. Next, coming to retroduodenal recess, this one, which is largest recess and it is rarely present. Next, coming to duodenojejunal, or you can say mesocolic recess. So mesocolic recess will be near to mesocolon. Okay. Next, coming to mesenteric parietal recess, this one. This is a mesenteric parietal recess which mainly contains superior mesenteric artery and vein of the same name. So this is a mesenteric parietal recess. So now coming to blood supply of duodenum. So it is mainly supplied by the superior and inferior pancreaticoduodenal arteries, and its first part of duodenum is also second and first part of duodenum is also supplied by right gastric artery, right gastroepiploic artery and proper hepatic artery. So all these arteries supply the second and first part of duodenum and also supplied by superior and inferior pancreaticoduodenal arteries. So finally coming to branch of gastroduodenal artery. So what are the branches of gastroduodenal artery? You have superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, retroduodenal artery, supraduodenal artery. So there are three branches which all supply the duodenum. Next, coming to gastroduodenal artery, which mainly supplies the first and second part of duodenum. Next, coming to superior mesenteric artery, which supplies the second, third, fourth part of duodenum, and also there is an inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery which especially supply, especially its first part. First part will supply the fourth part of duodenum. Okay, so these are like more point like information. There's nothing to understand about this. Okay, so just remember these points. So finally, let us differentiate jejunum from ileum. So jejunum is situated in upper and lateral part, but ileum is in the lower and medial part. There are 1 to 2 arterial arcuates in jejunum, 3 to 5 arterial arcuates in ileum. Here the vasa recta is long, here the vasa recta is short. Here the villi are large leaf-like, here the ileum, the villi are small finger-like. There are many circular folds in jejunum. Of course, in ileum circular folds are present but not as prominent as jejunum. And if you see Peyer's patch, no Peyer's patch in jejunum, but Peyer's patch is prominent present in anti-mesenteric border in ileum. If you see the circular folds of jejunum on contrast study, they appear like feathery appearance. If you see there are no circular folds in ileum in a terminal part of ileum. So note that the duodenum circular folds, the first part is devoid of circular folds. 2, 3, 4 parts have circular folds. Okay. So what we are saying in duodenum about duodenum circular folds, if you observe, only in the first part it will not have circular folds, so it will form a duodenal cap, right? But in second, third, fourth parts, all parts will have circular folds. So by this we have completed all the important points related to the stomach and small intestine. Okay, next we'll begin our lecture with large intestine.